Hey, Brian, welcome to the show.
Hey Tom, glad to be here.
Absolutely, man. It's great to have you. So if you haven't met Brian yet, Brian David Crane is a serial entrepreneur. He sold his first company at age 24. He's helped launch six multi-million dollar brands, including archives.com that was bought for $100 million. He's been a digital nomad since 2014 and is here to talk about the downsides of the digital nomad lifestyle and why you might want to rethink selling everything you own and traveling all around the world. Brian, tell us about like your background as an entrepreneur, man. Like, how did you get started, and how do you sell your first successful company at 24?
Yeah, I had I've like I'm sure a lot of your guests, I've had a entrepreneurial streak since I was a teenager. Started out with a lawn mowing company, then started a recycling company with my mom at 17 when I was in high school, and that took off. I paid my way through college with it, did a year abroad while I was in university, and then came back and sold the company at 24. Made a bunch of money, didn't know what to do with myself, thought I would go travel for a while, embarked on a trip around the world called 25 at 25 that I got 3 countries in, and it was kind of miserable. I didn't have a purpose to it. I was just putzing around. So canceled that trip, came back to the States, wound up losing everything in the '08 financial crisis, and which was awesome for me, getting my teeth kicked in early because I was a little bit too big for my britches at the time. And so as a result of getting turned upside down, a friend of mine got me a job out in Silicon Valley, moved out there for 3 years, had a series of 3 mentors that I still consider mentors to this day that taught me how to build and launch digital brands. Helped them, went on to do it for a series of e-commerce brands, and then came back to like wanting to build something big and technical with the company that I'm the founder of now, called Collar Smart, and but I didn't want to give up the sort of the nomadic lifestyle. So we built a software team in Poland, where I'm talking to you now, in Warsaw, and but during that time, like even though the team was here in Warsaw, I got to travel. So I got to live in Bali, live in South America, live a couple of places in North America. And I do think there are some downsides to being a digital nomad that I can happily talk about, but because I see a lot of the sizzle that people put out on social media about how amazing it is sitting by the ocean with your laptop and a Mai Tai.
Right, totally, right. So it's really interesting because I think there's a big difference between what's marketed as the lifestyle and what it actually is like, right? Which is really typical in the online space. Like, everyone wants to sell you their Porsche and Lamborghini and pictures on the beach and all this stuff, and it's like it's just so unrealistic for so many people. And so tell us about that. Like, what's it actually like to you? Like, what has actually your digital nomad lifestyle been like?
Well, it is entirely unrealistic, but after all, who doesn't want to be the author of their own life, and who also doesn't want to not be in a cubicle and have a boss you don't like and be sitting underneath fluorescent lights? Like, it's very easy to say, these things suck. I want to go, I want to go follow this person or live this particular lifestyle. My experience, I think of myself more as an expat than I do as a digital nomad. So what has worked well for me is spending 3 to 4 months in one particular place, and then using that place as a base from which to go out and explore. So Bali has been the base in Southeast Asia. I lived for a period of time in Hong Kong. Same thing, was there for 5 months, and then could zip around and go explore Vietnam and the Philippines and some places. In Europe, it's Poland, and then in the States, it's been a couple different places in the States, but it's like the concept of like when you're instead of moving around all the time, and that's one of the downsides to being a nomad, is the ramp up and ramp down time is grossly underestimated. Consistently, it's very hard to keep habits. It's also exceptionally, I think, one thing that people really don't talk about, and that I think is a double-edged sword, is that you deal with envy and perception. So for instance, assume that you're working remotely, or that you that you're a freelancer and all you want to tell people how amazing your life is on social media. You want to show the pictures of where you're at, your travels and whatnot. And on a Tuesday, you're, playing with the monkeys, or you're going to an ecstatic dance or visiting a waterfall or whatever it is. But you also have to keep your clients or your boss happy. And if they see you on a Tuesday doing those things, they start to wonder about your work product, or they start to wonder about your work ethic, or if you're following through on what you've said you're going to do. So it really puts your income in jeopardy if you're dealing with those kind of things. And it's one of those things that people don't talk about. And a lot of the people that you meet on the road, maybe I'm jaded by this, tend to be folks who are selling being a digital nomad by being a coach, or by being some kind of practitioner where they're it's almost like a Ponzi scheme. Like they're funding their own lifestyle off the backs of other people who want to be doing what they're doing.
Yeah. So, I mean, that just irritates me to no end. This whole coaching thing, I think about a year and a half ago or so, Facebook ads, like everyone started targeting everyone on Facebook ads, like, the coaching industry is blowing up right now, how to make $1 million as a coach and all this BS. And yeah, these guys are just selling this lifestyle of you're going to be a coach, and they make all their money from selling people on coaching on how to be coaches, to coach other coaches to coach. It's just like, it is a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
It literally is. And I'm not saying everyone, coaches are amazing. Like I have coaches, like I love working with coaches. Like I love the industry. I just think what's happened in the past couple of years, where it's become the thing is to coach coaches, to coach coaches, to coach coaches.
Yep.
It's just crazy.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I've found that you're right, Tom. I've found that I have several coaches. I've had mentors in different areas of my life. And the ones who I have found that are the best are the ones who are typically a bit reserved about taking somebody on, right? They're not, their sole income is not from coaching. They have a fulfilled and full life in some other capacity. And I come along and I'm like, I would love to have this particular skill, or I would love to emulate you. Can you teach me, or can I work underneath you? And those are the kind of coaches that I look for, not the people who the only thing that they do is coaching.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And the best coaches I've had by far were the coaches that I went to because they had specialized skill sets or specialized knowledge. So like I've got a coach for like emotional, like handling my emotions, understanding my emotions. Like that's been amazing. And I just went to with that, like one thing, right? And then another coach, business wise, he sold several companies for huge, even $1 billion plus company. And, so he really knew what he was doing. And it was like you said, he was like those things he wouldn't take on that many clients. Like he only had like 2 or 3 clients he would work with at a time at most, because he's busy doing other things. Whereas people who just, full-time coaching and like, you go to their webinar and they sell you their $10,000 plus package. In my experience, those are usually not the best coaches to work with.
Because I tend to think of it as like you actually have, I think there's 3 levels to this. And I would say that you have like a teacher, somebody who can teach the skill but doesn't have personal mastery of it. And there's a lot. I had, you and I both in school had teachers, somebody who could, teach physics, but wasn't necessarily a master physicist by any means. And then you have coaches or mentors, they've already mastered the skill and you can learn it by being around them. And then I think the third level that we're talking about is gurus, who uses this resulting social credibility from their skill to then convince you to follow them in other areas of your life. And my uncle always used to say that even a broke clock is right twice a day, right? So like you tend to, and you can get sucked into the guru trap. I've been sucked into it, I'm like, tell me what to eat for breakfast. Tell me which color socks I should wear. Tell me, I don't even know how to walk, talk, and chew gum anymore unless you give me advice on this.
Yeah, totally. It's easy to get stuck in that. And it's like all the NLP and sales pitch strategies and everything they use just to convince you to follow them. Right. And it's crazy. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the reasons I stopped doing like so many webinars and sales pitch and affiliate promotions, because I just got so tired of promoting people who just sell all this hype and don't actually deliver value. Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah, man. So let's talk about the digital nomad lifestyle a little bit more. You talked about some of the downsides. And one thing you said is like the ramp up and ramp down, right? And that's one of the reasons I don't travel too much right now in my life, is because it's such a huge commitment. It's like, it's not even the money for me anymore. It's the time it takes to get ready, to plan the trip, to prepare the trip, to get on the plane, to rest and recover after the flight, and then come back,
Yep. 100%.
Um,
100%.
I
That's
found I can be so much more productive and so much happier without all the travel. And also the second thing that comes along with that connects to the coaching thing is like, you know, it's like if you're always signing up for programs or seminars or trips or vacations, it's like you're always like your brain is like always tuned, like what's the next thing I'm gonna do?
yep,
Versus like, how can I contribute and add value and grow my business and make a difference in the world and, be there for my family and friends and loved ones, right? I find that like a lot of people who live that lifestyle, like they're so distracted by all the stuff going on,
yep.
they never focus long enough to actually do something meaningful with their work or with their relationships.
For sure. That is definitely one of them, is that the lack of focus, what I call it is, becoming so good that they can't ignore you, right? Like that you develop world-class skills, or you become so good in your field that the market tells you we need more of whatever it is that you're doing. And when you're moving around, it is exceptionally difficult to do that. And I think on top of that, like another one would be, I would call it one of them is, I would say 21st century materialism, right? So like 4-hour work week, which I'm sure most people have read, I've read, or I think most people at some capacity who want to talk about lifestyle entrepreneurship have read. It's like we say we're not necessarily interested in material possessions, which is true, but we get addicted to experience and novelty, right? It's another form of addiction. And I see a lot of that in the digital nomad community, where it's like, oh, I'm down to 2 suitcases, or I'm down to just a few items. And then I'm like, but you also are totally addicted to, this like novelty factor in your life, right? Like it's still like a very dangerous form of narcissism. So yeah, I mean, another one that in the talk I gave at Hubud is what I would call plate discipline. Are you familiar with plate discipline?
No, I'm not sure what that means.
No, plate discipline is it's an expression from the Dominican Republic. And so, the Dominican Republic produces these amazing baseball players. And one of the reasons that it does it is because they learn when they start playing baseball how to hit curveballs, fastballs, sliders at their head, at their ankles, wherever the ball is thrown. And they become amazing hitters. And so they get drafted, they get off the island. And the first thing they do is when they get to the major leagues is they have batting coaches who start looking at them swinging at all these garbage pitches, and they get screamed at. They're like, you cannot swing at that. That's out of the strike zone. You cannot swing at that. That's not your pitch. And it's an analogy for folks in the digital nomad community, because what it is that like when you're starting out, you have to swing, learn how to hit just about everything, hustle, take every opportunity. And then all of a sudden, once you get some sustainable momentum, you have to learn a whole new set of skills that's not really talked about, which is to say no to things and actually wait for your pitch. And it's something I'm not very good at. I love bright, shiny objects. I love new ideas. But it is like, if you want to stay in the majors, like if you want to make it a long-term, let's say career, or if you want to do long-term travel, like it's something that you have to learn, is the ability to say no to some of those things. Otherwise you just wind back up in the Dominican Republic, right? And you missed your shot at the majors.
Yeah, definitely. So how have you been working on developing your discipline?
How have I been working on developing my discipline? I have, yeah, I wish I had a silver bullet answer for that one. I think, I find for myself that if I have a sense of pushing a rock up a hill, if I listen to that, if I'm not stubborn and I pay attention to it, a lot of times that's an indicator to me that I'm swinging at something that's outside of my strike zone, to use the plate analogy. And it reinforces the discipline, because it causes me to kind of stop and take another look. But I'm not great at this. This is something that I'm good, but it's something I would like to be better at, to be honest.
Gotcha. Well, I know discipline for me is definitely connected to habits, right? Like having the right habits. Like once you have a great habit in place, it's like it's effortless. Like you don't have to think about it. But if you don't have the right habit and you're trying to change your behavior, it's like feels like like you said, trying to push a rock up a hill, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, how do you develop habits with the digital nomad lifestyle? because you're always changing like locations, you're changing food, like, everything in your environment is completely changing, but you keep your behavior the same.
Yeah, I'm maniacal about that sort of stuff. I mean, like I mean, I've just developed some habits that I think are, my girlfriend thinks they're crazy, but stuff like, I mean, I have a sound machine that I sleep with. You know, the phone's in airplane mode. I have a sound machine. I journal every night before I go to bed. This is, I've been journaling for, 4 years consistently every night. So it's not a new habit. In the mornings, before I turn on the phone, I get up and do like kind of some calisthenics and dance, a little bit, put on some dance music and just shake it out. And, I drink 2 liters of water. I have a kind of a set morning and a set nighttime routine that really help me bookend the day in both directions, no matter where I'm at. And then again, using the framework of being an expat, not necessarily a digital nomad, is that when I go to places, I have a like 2 monitor setup. I have a working desk. I'm not dropping into a co-working space where I don't know what the environment's like. I actually have an office where I'm going to be, and those things they facilitate the momentum, right? They facilitate maintaining the habits, because it's not. I've tried to eliminate as much of the, oh my gosh, I don't know where I'm sleeping next week. Oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm going to have stable internet, because it's just killers.
Yeah, totally. So, Tony Robbins talks about certainty and uncertainty, right? And how it's so important to balance the certainty and the uncertainty in your life. Like you have the foundation, but we also need uncertainty. Like we need new experiences, new things, new challenges to go after, right? So have you found like your habits are kind of giving you that like foundation?
It sounds like a romantic relationship. Certainty and the uncertainty. It's a paradox. Go ahead. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I think, well, it makes a lot of sense to me that like, when I look at my life, like I definitely need some certainty around like having enough money, knowing where I'm going to sleep, having food, like, basic things.
Yeah.
But also having uncertainty about like, new challenges and trying new things and having new experiences, like you said,
Yeah.
But as a digital nomad, it's like, I feel like there's just so much uncertainty. Like you don't know where you're going to live. You don't know what you're going to do. You don't know who you're going to be around.
Yeah.
And I know when I was traveling a lot, like I never was like really a digital nomad. When I was traveling a lot, like what really kept me kind of grounded and centered was like, okay, I have my business and I'm working on my business. And so like every day I would go, if I had time, I'd go on the computer, do some work, stay focused on the business.
Same for me.
Yeah. So is that like what you think is like the foundation, the core of like what keeps you from just being like completely unproductive and like, you know what I mean? I feel like some people can just travel the world and not, and like I said, just chase new experiences, not actually get anything done and not feel like they're actually making progress in their life.
And it's okay if they want to do that. I mean, honestly, I think that's one of the downsides of being a digital nomad, is that instead of taking a vacation and going for a couple months and filling up your bucket list as far as new experiences go, and just, living it up and everything you want to do for a couple months, like just, do it. You wind up in this very, what I think is a Western trap. I would actually call it like an American trap of you're not really on vacation, but you're not really working, and you're traveling with your laptop and you feel like you should be doing some work. And it doesn't give you that like it's gray. It's not black or white. Right. And you wind up being in this, you get out of it and you're like, wow, I had some amazing trips, but I don't feel like I got as much done as I wanted to. And it's like, they're incompatible, the two goals, So, so I think there's a purpose early on when you look at doing long-term travel, or you look at doing, like living abroad, is that you go, you're going to sacrifice some things. And I think that, coming in, knowing that you're going to sacrifice some things is a much healthier framework, or coming in and saying like, I'm just going to go for a couple months and I'm going to come back.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's so important. It's like knowing what you have to sacrifice and understanding your limits. I read this great book, Healing the Shame That Binds Us. And they talk about like, knowing your limits, knowing that you're just human, you're not God. You can't have it all. And I think, that's one of the things that irks me about like, a lot of internet marketers is like, you can have the lifestyle, you can have everything. Like, yeah, you can't have everything you want, or you can have, I think you can have a lot of things that you want, but I don't think you can have every single thing you want. And you know,
You can't
the
have it
image
all
that's
at
being
once.
sold is not, it's not what's reality, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. There's someone much wiser than me that once told me once, she said, you can have everything you want, just not all at once.
Right.
That's the
Exactly.
kicker. Just not all at once. And
Right.
it's the
Totally.
trap that we fall into. And I'm guilty of it as probably more than most, of wanting everything all at once, you know? Um, and it really leads to quite a bit of unhappiness, to be honest with you, because it's something where your expectations are just totally out of alignment, subconsciously or even consciously.
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, have you had that experience where you finally realize like, hey, what I was expecting here is not reality, and you like kind of hit bottom somehow?
Yeah, yeah. Um, I've taken a number of punches in my life, metaphorically, and I've been hit, but like, physically. But um, I think I, yeah, and I think that's what, honestly, I think that's what happens with a lot of folks who are nomadic, is that they reach a point where they're just, there's other, and this is happening for me, is that there's just other things in life that are going on that are being missed, that are, you just get tired of sacrificing and missing out on those things, right? Like I get tired of, um, as one example, being here in Poland and working with our team, is that I miss being in an office. Like I miss being around coworkers. I miss being in a like seeing the same people on a day-to-day basis, the face-to-face collaboration. And honestly, I think that's, for a lot of people who travel, it's one of those things where it can be incredibly lonely. And not only can it be lonely, but it's lonely in a sense of like you're in all these like transitory friendships and transitory. You meet someone, and is it a business relationship or is it a friendship? A bunch of mixed messaging, and a lot of times, like, it's healthy for people just to have an office with the same people that they go see every day or see 3 or 4 times a week, and you commiserate afterwards because you're like, everybody's like, well, we're all pulling in the same direction, so you go have a beer afterwards, you can talk about it, and you miss that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think that should be understated. I mean, I noticed that so much when I was traveling, is that it was this very lonely thing. It was like, yeah, it's cool. I'm meeting fun new people and I'm doing amazing things. But like, you know, when I did my 90-day trip around the world, it was like all my old friends.
9 days around the world.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like Asia and Africa, it wasn't like around the whole world, but for me, it seemed like around the world, you know.
Yeah,
Asia.
still ambitious. Yeah, that's a lot of time
Um,
zones.
yeah, totally. Um, but yeah, I think relationships are super important. And in my experience, and I mean, the science shows that relationships are one of the biggest impactors on your health. If you have great relationships, long-term relationships, dramatically improves your health, your well-being, your productivity. Um, so how do you maintain long-term relationships when you're traveling so much? Is it even possible?
Um, I live with friends. That's been one of the solutions. So, we had last year had a ski villa in Whistler outside of Vancouver, Canada, and it was a 5-bedroom one, and we had 3 core friends that were in that group, who everybody had a digital business, let's say, and or was able to work remotely, and then we had a couple other friends who would rotate throughout the couple months that we were there. Did the similar setup in Bali, similar setup elsewhere, and um, I think that's one of the ways you just hopefully like if you hopefully make friends with people who are on a similar trajectory, and that you're going to see again and again, because it's incredibly tiring to just, and I keep using the word tiring, I don't know why, but like it's the ramp up of, hi, I'm Brian, here's my life story, hi, I'm Tom, here's, you got to tell the whole damn thing from the beginning to the end over and over again. It's kind of like, you just want to hand somebody a QR code and just be like, scan it, and here you can just have my information, right? And then we start from as if we've known each other for 10 years instead of 10 minutes.
Right. So for you, it's like having that sense of community, like having people you're living with, so you're not
But
isolated and alone.
people I'm living with, and people that I'm going to see again in the future, right? Like that we share mutual friends. You and I both know Chad Turner. He and I, we had a place together in Bali along with Mike. And, I mean, it's just like, yeah, I mean, we're social creatures, and it's for me, it's those relationships, the long-term friendships, guys that I've known for 5 or 10 years that, I pay attention to when they're like, I think like, let's get a place here and use it as the base for the next 3 to 4 months. I tend to pay attention to them and be like, okay, mainly because they're there, not because I necessarily love the place sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. That's good. Like, I think that makes a lot of sense is to build your life around relationships. So like, if you want to be location independent, like why not go somewhere where you actually have friends versus just somewhere that's just new? Like, because everywhere's going to be different and new, in some way.
Amen to that. Yeah. I mean, I had lunch today with a guy that I've known for 5 years. I know, like I know his story. He knows my story, here in Warsaw, and I will see him again in the future, right? It's like, it's not just starting from zero. So
yeah,
talk this one, huh?
Yeah, I think having long-term relationships is so important, right? And that's what was a big challenge for me. Like when I first I was kind of had passive income since I graduated from college because of how I structured my businesses, um, and it was awesome because like I could go anywhere, I could do anything, I could live anywhere. Like the location didn't matter. The problem for me was like friendships and relationships did matter, and there's like I didn't really know anyone else in my life at that time who had a similar lifestyle. So it was like I wanted to go on vacation, I wanted to do these awesome things, I wanted to go on these amazing trips, but I didn't want to do it all by myself. And that was a really big struggle with me for a couple of years. Was like I want to live this different lifestyle, but I don't want to be alone. And how do I actually find people who have a similar lifestyle? And I know today, like it's so much easier, like Facebook groups and all these things. But when I was starting, it was really hard to find people who like, and like you said, like the whole jealousy, envy thing. Like a lot of my friends, who I spent a lot of time with, would they loved me and everything was cool. But then what if I talk about like going on a trip or doing these things? It was like the envy and jealousy kicked in and kind of put like a distance in our relationship. But how have you gone about like cultivating those relationships with people so that you're not so lonely?
Joining groups like the one that you and I know each other through, right? The Brotherhood.
Yeah, that's been amazing.
Yeah, that I'm a part of, maybe, I don't know, not at the moment, but at one point or another, probably a part of a half a dozen different business kind of masterminds that have friends in it, right? And that and I have made friends through when I land somewhere, I get involved in a local sports team. Like I tend to do soccer. That's my but basketball, any kind of team sport that will get me tapped in with other folks. I just find it's just very bonding. Plus, it's away from the computer. Plus, it's not necessarily business related or angled in any way, shape, or form. And that has always been a go-to for me. Is team sports in the place that I'm living.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great way to get out in the community too. And like you see the same people every week, every time you go to the play. You build some kind of relationships, even if they're maybe not people you're going to see for the rest of your life. At least you still have that kind of foundation there, fun people to hang out with and things to do.
And it's a different type. I mean, it's like I play soccer with guys who they don't care at all about what you do on the internet, right? Like one's a mechanical engineer, another guy, it's kind of like, it's very grounding, because a lot of times if you're sorry, there's an ambulance going by outside, but I think it's easy to get caught behind the screen, and it's like you need to just. Sometimes there's an element of like you came to this place to meet locals or to get involved in local culture. So why are you sitting behind your computer all day telling people how amazing it is when you're not interacting with any of them?
Right, totally. I mean, that's one of the reasons. Like, I just very rarely post on Facebook on my personal profiles because like. It's a time waste, and it's great. Like, people in my life can see what I'm up to. And sometimes I talk about my business and my accomplishments and, I get referrals from it. Like, there's definitely reasons to post.
Yeah.
But I just find that it's like the time and energy it takes, like distracts from actually being face to face with people, actually building relationships, actually doing things that are much more meaningful to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I use Facebook and these other social media platforms as a means of finding out who else is around to hopefully get together face to face. That's the goal with them for me a lot of times.
Yeah, totally. So not
Um,
just mindlessly swiping through the news feed, right?
no, or just being like, here's what's going on in politics, or here's a cute puppy video. No, I'm like, who is around? um, as I mean, I was being here in Europe. I was headed to Munich um, to see my girlfriend, and I was like, I wonder who's going to be around for Oktoberfest. And I posted on Facebook about it, and a couple friends that, one coming over from Tennessee I didn't know about, and then one, actually both of them coming over from Tennessee, and I got to see both of them, and I would never have known otherwise had had it not been for social media. So there's sometimes it's not all bad.
Yeah, definitely. There are definitely benefits to the lifestyle, right? For sure.
Yeah.
And social media too. Um, so if you had to go back and start your traveling all over again, go back to your earlier days, are there any like mistakes you made or things you would avoid or things you would change?
Um, I probably I found I well one mistake. I mean, I found Hong Kong when I was there in my late 20s so exciting as a city. Um, I was really sad to leave it, and I think that had there not been a couple things that were bringing me back to the States, I probably would have stayed longer. And I think that in my travels, I would have. I often question myself and wonder if traveling is because part of the reason to travel in my case is I'm looking for a home, right? I have a home, but I also um, like I want to put deeper roots down somewhere, and um, so that's part of my motivation. And I again, you can have everything, but not all at once. Like there's part of me that wants to have done all of this traveling and searching earlier. Because I see people who are in their 30s and they have a family, they have the roots, they have the routines, and I'm like, that looks pretty awesome. I'm like, I would like that, and now I'm like, well, can't have everything, but just not all at once. They're like, oh, it's so amazing, you got a villa in Bali, da 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 da, and I'm like, yeah, but you have like what I want. It's grass is always greener, right? So I think maybe if I had started the travels earlier, or and there wasn't a reason not to. It was more, I don't know. I think I was maybe a bit, I don't know. I think, I don't know why I didn't make the jump earlier. I think it took someone else saying, why don't you come here? I think you would really like it, to actually get me onto the plane.
So what was your life like before traveling?
I mean, I've traveled a lot. So there wasn't, I mean, what was my life like before traveling? It's funny that the show focuses on this. I think I would say that, I don't know, man. I mean, like I've been to, I think something like 50 countries, lived on 4 different continents now. And so it's not, and that's been the case. I mean, since I was 18, we did a trip in Europe with my parents where we traveled around the Baltic Sea, and that kind of got the seed started early. So I don't know if there's a life before traveling. It's always kind of been in the Crane DNA or in the Crane blood.
Gotcha. Adventure at heart, huh?
It comes from my folks. Yeah, they're both. They're one. They have an RV now and travel around half of the year and that. So the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Maybe.
Yeah. So is there any kind of words of advice you'd give to folks who maybe they haven't started the digital nomad lifestyle yet, or maybe they haven't started doing lots and lots of traveling, but they really want to?
Yeah, I would. I have one. I mean, I have one that I think is. I see so many people who they jump out of the plane without a parachute, expecting that they're going to figure out how to land on their feet on the way down. And that's an analogy, but what I mean by that is that if you were thinking about being nomadic, or you're thinking about wanting to do long-term travel, I think that to make it sustainable over a meaningful period of time and to make it enjoyable, I think you need to have a side income, either a part-time or a full-time side income, already coming in before you make the leap. And there's a lot of people who there's kind of this belief of like, just follow your dreams. If your dream is to, go to Bali, like just get on the plane and you'll figure it out once you get there. And it's so much harder. All the distractions, different people coming at you. Like it's incredibly, incredibly difficult. And it's also, it's way more stressful. And so my advice to anybody who's looking at doing this is, write a book, like some of what you talk about and what you teach. Get a side business set up or get a side income set up that's not tied to a particular location first, and then start out with a trip or two and see if it fits for you. And a lot of people kind of do it and go, all right, I scratched that itch. I'm ready to get on with another phase of my life. Yeah,
definitely. And that's pretty much what happened to me. I mean, I used to have on my bucket list, visit 100 and, all the countries on the planet, every country I want to visit. And just like, now I look at that, why was that so ridiculous? Like, why did I think that was important? Because I've been to like 20 some countries, and don't get me wrong, the world is amazing. And I would love to, like, if there was unlimited time and unlimited, resources, visiting all countries on the planet would be amazing to just explore the earth. But there's so many other things I want to do with my life that don't involve just looking at new things and going to new places,
Yeah. Yeah. That bucket gets filled up, right? And then you're kind of like, all right, I want to go out and actually consolidate some of what I've learned or consolidate some of what I've seen and make a difference or make an impact. And that means being planted, and having some routines.
Yeah, definitely, man. Well, it's been a great conversation, Brian. I mean, I really appreciate your insights, and it's great to hear, kind of the truth behind the lifestyle. It's all hype, right?
The unvarnished truth.
Yeah.
Road warrior stories.
Yeah, man. So tell us about what you're working on now and where folks can find out more about you and connect with you.
So I'm here in Poland working on, a couple different business ventures, but Caller Smart is the one that company I'm the founder of. And we help people with unknown and unwanted calls. So we think of the phone number like almost like your social security number. It's a piece of information or data to be managed. And we've got a really popular app and website, something like 500,000 active users on a monthly basis that compete to keep the phone listings up to date. And I'm over here checking in on that business. So if people want to keep in contact with me or want to learn more about what I'm up to, I'm on Twitter at Brian David Crane. They can email me, Brian at callarsmart.com. I think that about covers it.
Awesome, man. Thank you. So I want to talk a little bit more about Caller Smart because this is definitely an issue I have.
Okay.
I get like these spam calls, I don't know, probably 3, 4, 5 times a week. Unknown numbers. Most times they don't leave messages. Sometimes they leave like these crazy messages like, you owe the IRS money and some BS. So like,
no problem. Are you on an iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
So it's a bit difficult on the iPhone. You download Caller Smart. We can help. What you're describing is use case number one for a lot of our users, and hopefully you become a happy user as well. But like that scam that you're talking about owing the IRS money is super, it's super aggressive and super nasty, right? And then one of the things that like we can help block the calls automatically. We can also help identify the number so that you know who it is before you call them back or before you answer in some capacity. But there's something like that scam in particular, different figures, something like $16-18 billion it costs Americans a year. And it's a surprising number. And I would bet that number is actually low because a lot of people fall victim to the scam, don't want to report it, feel embarrassed. Like, how could I fall for this? And what that particular scam has done that's really nasty is they target immigrants. And because immigrants don't know how the tax system works in the States, they think that the IRS could call them up and threaten them, not that the IRS just sends letters. And they're willing to send a wire, or they're willing to transfer money via Western Union to wherever the person says. So don't fall for it.
Awesome. Good advice, man. Well, I'll definitely download that app, check it out.
Thanks.
Maybe give me a little more peace of mind, less distractions is always nice.
Help you take back your phone.
Yeah, totally, man.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian. It's great to see you again, man. I appreciate all the work
Great to see you.
Keep it up.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Take care, buddy.
Bye-bye.